Here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. This is where we discuss key issues shaping our nation and our economy at large. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and today we are centering our discussions on the Rivers State Supreme Court ruling, exploring the implications and what it means for the state. On February 28th, the Supreme Court stopped the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Accountant General of the Federation from allocating funds to the Rivers State government until a valid appropriation law is passed by the Rivers State House of Assembly. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court also ordered that Martins Amaewhule and 26 others loyal to the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, who have been excluded from functioning as members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, should resume immediately. The decision followed the position of the court that the action of the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, throughout the political saga in Rivers, had been born out of fear of impeachment. It added that such fear was no justification to attack the legislature or act in breach of the rule of law. The court faulted the action of the state governor, which included the demolition of the assembly building. While some have welcomed the Apex Court position, several others have raised concerns about the decision to stop the allocation of the funds to the Rivers State government, describing it as rather too harsh. Today we're being joined on the show by Mrs. Ibim Semenitari. She is a human rights and social rights activist who has held several key positions in both public and private sectors in Nigeria. She's also a former Commissioner for Information and Communications in Rivers State, as well as a former acting managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, an agency responsible for driving development in Nigeria's troubled oil-rich region. You're welcome to the show, madam.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. So let me start by asking you this question. Now, how did the Rivers State people receive the news of the Supreme Court ruling?
Honestly speaking, we received it with a lot of embarrassment. Embarrassment because it's shocking to hear the court make such far-reaching orders. And let's step back a bit, okay? You're stopping the allocation from getting to the state, and you're doing that without consideration at all of the issues involved. Now, let's remember that when a court takes a decision, as far as we know, the standard is that the court does not by its judgment cause confusion. It does not by its judgment cause displacement. You have 10,000 local government workers. 10,000. You've got salaries to pay, okay? You've got all of those things. And then you make a decision withholding allocation. Someone. And then let's go back on this whole issue of did the governor just act in flagrant disobedience? Let's just go back. Let's pedal back a bit. And the fact is that always the standard is that once there are appeals on a matter, it means that the matter is still going on, and you cannot take any decisions until a final arbitration of the court. So even if you looked at it from that perspective, there's no way you can say, oh, Governor Siminalayi was disobeying court orders, because there had been no final determination of any of the cases. What the Supreme Court did was actually cause a displacement of confidence of the people of Rivers State in the judiciary. That's what they've done. Because, I don't want to say that the ruling was obnoxious, because that might be saying what isn't right. But a court goes and says, okay, we've annulled local government elections. Elections that happened using the same matrix in 32 states of the Federation, not just in Rivers State. So the same local government elections have held in 32 states of this country using the same INEC register. And there were no issues. So what is so special about the Rivers State elections? That even though it's the same matrix, so what's going to happen to all the other 32 states? Are you going to annul all of those? Or is it just Rivers State because there's a strong man somewhere? Is that what the Supreme Court is telling us? When you go ahead and say, we're annulling elections, the court didn't make any further pronouncements. And that's not the standard. The court didn't say, okay, INEC, by so date, you must do this. The court didn't say, Resec, by so date, you must do this. The court didn't say elections must hold by so date. The court just left a lacuna and just said Rivers people, go and die. Who does that? Who does that? You go ahead. It didn't say in the interim, so person should take over. The court is taking this decision on local government, forgetting that immunizations happen at the local government. I'm a Rotarian, and I know the amount of work that has gone into ending polio. Primary healthcare workers are at the local government. Sanitary inspectors are at the local government. And then you take such decisions that affect the governance and the benefits of the people of Rivers State who are taxpayers in this country. And you take it without consideration of the people. And then since when did the court start giving reliefs that were not sought? From the High Court to the Federal Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, there were no discussions around speaker. So how does the Supreme Court grant a relief that was not sought? You know, those kinds of things make you begin to wonder as to what exactly the situation is. And so for me, when you look at that, when you listen to the word on the street, you find Rivers people feeling very upset. And you know, just speaking as a reporter that worked and fought for democracy, speaking as a reporter that was in the trenches, when many of these people who are enjoying the fruit of all of that struggle were in the comfort of their homes, it is hurting, because this is not the democracy we envisaged. This is not the democracy we fought for. We didn't fight for a democracy that gives us strong men and weak institutions. That's not what I was on the streets for. That's not why I nearly got arrested. That's why some of us were nearly killed. That's not why my colleagues were killed. For some strong man and weak institutions, no. So, you know, it's left. If you go around Rivers State, you will hear Rivers people saying, what have we done? Is it that as Rivers people, we no longer are part of Nigeria? Is it that nobody cares? Why is it that something that happened in 32 states, Rivers State is being singled out? Why? It's really bothersome, honestly speaking. It is.
It's very interesting to, you know, hear you share and also share from the point of being a reporter who had, you know, has first-hand experiences and first-hand information on some of these things. But you know that the governor of Siminalayi Fubara has offered to obey and implement the ruling of the Supreme Court. He has gone ahead and dissolved the local government executives and directed them to hand over to the heads of government. But the governor's decision has been opposed by the Honorable Martins Amaewhule led House of Assembly. What, according to your own opinion, is the way forward?
Quite frankly, I think that what the governor did is sensible. If the Supreme Court says the local government elections were flawed because INEC didn't update register and all of the 90 days rule, he's done the sensible thing. And that's why I say the Supreme Court caused confusion. The Supreme Court should have been able to say, right now, let this and this and this and this happen. But they didn't. Now the governor, again, acting in good faith, as he has always done. And we must remember that in all of these conversations, Siminalayi Fubara has always acted in good faith. Let's go back to even the withdrawal of the case. After they went and met with Mr. President, they came back to Rivers State. And the first thing Siminalayi Fubara, who was a defendant in the matter, and therefore had no business withdrawing any case from court, he should have just sat down in government house and waited for the Amaewhule faction to go and withdraw the case. But he acted in good faith. And I would like to say in naive belief that he was dealing with gentlemen. And he ordered his attorney general to withdraw this case from court, even though he was a defendant, and it was not in his place to do so. And you see, these other people took advantage of it, and all of these winnings we are seeing now is because of that withdrawal. Let's assume Siminalayi Fubara did what any other defendant would do, which is fold his hands and wait. Then we won't be talking, these conversations we're having, we won't be having them. But he showed good faith, and that is why you wonder, you know, when you're dealing with people who are truly not gentlemen, it's a bit troubling. Now, so now again, without even seeing the CTC, because if I were him, I would say, I will wait until I see the CTC before I take any action. But he showed good faith again. And he said, on this matter of the local governments, to show good faith, to show that I am not disobeying the courts, to show that I mean well for Rivers people and for Nigeria, He went ahead and he's done what he's done, which I think is good. And naturally, who would you hand over to? It is only natural that you hand over to the head of local government administration, because that's the most senior civil servant. And that's the person who should take over. Will you hand over to people whose tenure had expired? And then the ones who would now come and sit? I mean, how do we even begin to justify brigandage?
Wow. So there's a pending case in this federal high court seeking to determine the status of the 26 lawmakers who allegedly defected from the PDP to APC. Are
we still using allegedly? This allegedly business. You know, we saw the videos, huh?
Right. But so the Supreme Court seems now to recognize as members of the House of Assembly in this circumstance. Do you think there's a need for the pending case in the High Court?
Absolutely, because that matter has not been determined. The Supreme Court has not said in any of, except, well, I haven't seen the CTC, it's still to come out, but I didn't hear them say that the status of the 27 lawmakers, except the Supreme Court wants to reverse itself because it is Rivers State and decides that they are going to go ahead and disregard their own judgment that says that when you defect, you lose your seat. Well, if the Supreme Court chooses to ignore itself and reverse itself because of Rivers State, therefore it will change the constitution and the law. Like Justice Okuta said, the Supreme Court is supreme, not because it's infallible, but because it is the Supreme Court.
All right. So the directive by the Apex Court that Rivers State allocation be withheld came as a shock to many. In your own view, what would be the implications of this on the Rivers government and the people of the state?
That is what I've just said to you, my dear. You know, you are going to affect administration at all levels. You're saying that civil servants who are working should not get paid. You're saying that teachers should not get paid. You're saying that hospitals should not be funded. You're saying that Rivers State should... Look, we have enjoyed peace. You see, these 2 years, Rivers State has been peaceful. You come to Rivers State, you're not hearing the kind of insecurities we had heard in some time. You come into the state, it is clean. You know, there's so many things that when you give a... You know, the court is supposed to protect and defend democracy. The court is supposed to defend the people. The people are supposed to be able to benefit because the court steps in as one of the estates of the realm to ensure that democracy functions and functions well. The court is not supposed to punish the people. It should not. And so, by this ruling of court, what the Supreme Court is saying is that Rivers people, you know what? We don't give a damn about you guys. We don't care that these elections were held just like it was held in 31 other states. We don't care. It's none of our business. We don't care whether your children are immunized. We don't care whether your babies die. We don't care whether your mothers die. We don't care. We just want to ensure that one strong man who is like somebody they left in a toy shop, a baby in a toy shop, is able to play with his toys. Basically, that's what this ruling appears to be saying to Rivers people. And as a Rivers woman, I feel pained.
Wow. So with all of this confusion that the Supreme Court ruling has created, do you think it's safe to conduct a fresh local government election now?
Well, it is the only sensible thing to do. Don't forget that the same court ruled that there should be no lacuna. And that only elected officials, the Supreme Court could have actually said, HPM or HLGA, take over and let the money be paid direct to the local governments. You could still have done that. And if you did that, Governor Siminalayi would not be, there are many ways to ensure that the people do not suffer.
All right.
But the truth of the matter is that it is what it is. We are where we are. And the best thing to do is to conduct these elections following the rule of law. I'm told that there was a circular by the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission calling for a meeting of stakeholders. I think things should progress to the point where, again, for me as a Rivers woman, I don't want my state up in flames. And I don't think, the truth is that Rivers people are not even looking for a fight. Again, it's about one lone, it's about one lone voice. And it hurts to think that we're establishing strong men and not strong institutions. I didn't think that was a democracy I left my children. My children were little babies when I was fighting. And staying in trenches and taking backyard routes to travel out of the country and doing stuff like that. I didn't think that I was going to bequeath to my children a nation with strong men and weak institutions. It's painful. I almost wonder whether that was what we made those sacrifices for.
And when you say that strong men and weak institutions, it actually really strikes a chord, like deep down inside of me. You know, the Ijaw nation has threatened to stand against any attempt to impeach Governor Fubara. Do you think that this will in any way throw the state into a more crisis?
Well, again, I do not hope and I do not think that we will be heading towards the impeachment route. And call me an eternal optimist if you like. I would like to think that any Rivers man who is truly a Rivers man or Rivers woman, that truly has the blood of a Rivers ancestor flowing through their veins, will have the sense not to throw the state into conflagration. I'm really hoping so. I want to think that at some point, the madness of any Rivers man or Rivers woman will stop, and the betterment of Rivers State and its people will prevail. I'd like to think so. Permit me to have that window of optimism at this point.
And I will definitely hold on to the optimism just as we've ended it. Thank you very much, Madam Ibim Siminalayi, for your time on the morning show today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for the privilege. I always appreciate it.
This has been the big story here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching BDTV.